This morning, I thought tonight we would be talking about Joe Biden, what could or, might he be able to achieve? Might he be able to open the humanitarian aid? Might he be able to persuade Egypt to take refugees? All of these if, buts and maybes, and everybody looking to Joe Biden. And now suddenly in the last few minutes, that all seems a bit insignificant when it seems that it's true that a hospital has been hit, and it seems that it's true hundreds of people have been killed in Gaza City at that hospital. We don't know and haven't had it verified whether to believe the Israelis who say it's possibly not Hamas, but another militant jihad group who seems to have struck their own hospital, or whether many people, particularly Palestinians, will say, well, the Israelis would say that, wouldn't they? Because they are never going to admit we're doing basically what is a war crime, hitting a hospital. And yet we all know that within Gaza, Hamas hides underneath schools, underneath hospitals and underneath mosques. That is part of their MO, of how they use innocent civilians as human shields. So that seems to add up. But all it does mean is that Joe Biden's got an even harder job trying to maintain any sort of, well, not that there is peace, but any sort of hope or optimism whilst trying to find a way through. And, of course, we thought that the ground invasion would happen within the next few days, and possibly it's not going to be a ground invasion. Possibly that's too complicated, and this is what it's going to be.
So that's the most important and most interesting thing for me, is the dialing down of the rhetoric. So Biden clearly having some sort of say in what is going on here, because, of course, Israel said there's a ground incursion. We've been waiting for this for days on end. And, of course, now the IDF are saying, well, maybe there isn't a ground incursion because maybe we'll resort to other tactics as well. You're right. I think the word that was used is about the terrorist encased amongst civilians. These are cowards that are hiding behind innocent people. Of course, you've got 1 million people moving south in Gaza as well. Of course, they're desperate for the Rafah crossing to open. I don't think it will open. Maybe they'll let humanitarian aid in. At the same time, of course, you've got Israel trying to work out what to do. You've got Biden saying you've got to be very careful in terms of making sure you don't have collateral damage. There are real people whose lives are in danger here on both sides. These are innocent civilians. Over 4,000 dead.
And I think actually that is the point, that there's so much human suffering that we're hearing of on both sides, absolutely on both sides. And, I agree. I don't think the ground incursion will happen. We were told, at the end of last week, I suppose, that there would be this invasion by land, air and sea. And I think maybe the Israeli forces have realised that land invasion, hand-to-hand fighting in the streets of Gaza, which is, only 4 miles wide and 25 miles long, would be very difficult and very arduous. And perhaps it is airstrikes. Perhaps it's via sea that they will decide to take this to the next level. What I would love to see, and this is probably pie in the sky and wishful thinking, is for the rhetoric to continue dialing down, that maybe President Biden visiting the region and then going to Jordan and other places in the region to carry out peace talks will have some sort of ceasefire. I know I'm sounding completely hopeful in that.
Yeah, and you are over-hopeful, I would say. Anthony Blinken, the Secretary of State from America, has been there for days, long talks with Netanyahu around committee desks. You're right, trying to dial things down. The Americans are foursquare behind Israel's right for revenge, their right to defend their people, but they don't want a humanitarian disaster in Gaza, and it's got all the hallmarks of this. But the thing is, one thing to remember, so apparently if this is true, what the Israelis are saying, this group, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, are just one terrorist group in Gaza. There are many more, all of whom, including the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, who make Hamas look like moderates. Now, this will be right out of their playbook, just as some kind of peace or a dialing down seemed to be occurring with the visit of Biden tomorrow. They deliberately fire on their own hospital to destroy any chance of peace. I would have thought, as you quite rightly say, Daisy and Afia, Biden has now got one hell of a mountain to climb tomorrow to stop full-scale conflict.
We don't know that that was a deliberate attempt to attack a hospital on their behalf. We think that it was an accident or a failed rocket launch that went off, which has caused that hospital to be destroyed. It's just devastating. It's just devastating on all sides. I just wish that all of the violence would stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, you have to be very mindful about escalation here. This is the powder keg. The whole of the Middle East is a powder keg. And you've got Saudi Arabia, of course, about to do the deal with Israel. Of course, Iran doesn't want that. They're sponsoring Hezbollah in Lebanon. So the whole thing could erupt. And this is my biggest worry.
Which is what they want.
Well,
that's what Hamas and the gang
exactly
want.
what they want. So this is why...
This was no accident.
Well, this is why Biden's visit is absolutely crucial in terms of trying to bring those parties back together. Also, I was talking to various people today about diplomatic back channels, what's going on with all of those countries.
And Rishi Sunak is going out, we believe, in the next
also,
couple of days.
what's the role of Qatar? Could Qatar be the media broker here?
Yeah.
Because they could play both sides and try and get them round the table.